Well, winter. This is another series of videos under the section on my channel called In Praise of the American Spirit. And we're going to talk about foreclosures. Last time we talked about unemployment. Now we're going to talk about foreclosures and the fact that what people are doing in the face of the foreclosure debacle is they are changing the rules. You know, there's a revolution going on already from ordinary people. And they are refusing to consent to the status quo. The Declaration of Independence basically says that the only just laws are those that come from the consent of the governed. And the economic laws that have been foisted on the American people by the banking and financial industries and by the military-industrial complex and all those people who managed to coerce or seduce Congress into doing what they want instead of what the people need, what they want instead of what the people need, that's not the republic anymore. That's not just anymore. The only just laws are those to which those who are governed by those laws consent. That's a basic principle of our form of government. The Constitution begins, we the people. It's not us the corporations or us the banks. It's we the people. Now, what's going on in the foreclosure industry, shall we say? Well, one of the things that's going on, and which people are very well aware of, I've got to check my time here, of course, I'm always forgetting about that part. Come on. Oh well. Now it's freezing up. Great, my computer's going to crash. Figures. Anyway, I'll fix that later. Now this has been going on for a while. In the first instance I became aware of it in the sense that it was clear that the social world was itself aware of it, you know, through the media. It was a program on 60 Minutes where what was basically said was that people were walking away from mortgages that they could pay. This was a story, and it interviewed people who had mortgages, and of course they had mortgages where the value of the house was no longer what was being asked of them to pay. And even though they had the capacity to pay, they were walking away from the mortgages. And the question was put, well, was this moral behavior? Which is an interesting question to put, okay? In other words, the question was put, is this a right thing to do, to walk away from your debt obligations? And what this shows is that there is an unclear aspect of the nature of law in people's minds. The first day I was in law school, one of the teachers emphasized this fact. The law is not moral. Moral behavior is something very different from the law. The law is the least acceptable social expectation of the society. The least acceptable. Not the higher principle, the moral principle, the least acceptable. And of course, with Thoreau and Gandhi and Martin Luther King, we have the tradition that has come into existence which says when the lower is not worthy of being obeyed, disobey. Civil disobedience. Disobedience against the civil. And in fact, one could make the case that those people who do that are actually representing the highest elements of the American spirit, which is to refuse to consent, to disobey to the unjust laws of the realm. And that's what was going on, that 60 Minutes finally noticed in the foreclosure thing, where people were walking away before they were ever foreclosed on. They could pay their mortgage, and they said, screw that. There's something not just about what's going on here. Now, Robert Heinlein, a very interesting writer, used to say there is no justice. And I think that was sort of a hard-scrabble point of view from a guy who was probably in his heart kind of libertarian and certainly conservative, and at the same time he was very, very, very much into human freedom. I think what he meant was, don't expect the civil aspects of the society that you live in to provide justice. Justice we have to manufacture ourselves. Okay? Now, since that foreclosure thing on 60 Minutes, there was another one, and it was just on the regular news, the regular evening news, I think CBS. And it was a story about people who are stopping paying their mortgage because they can't afford to pay that awful mortgage and are not leaving the house. They are staying in the house. And they've discovered, and they're discovering among themselves, that the courts are now so clogged with the foreclosure process that it takes too long. And someone said, well, that's taking advantage of the system. Well, duh. The reason we're in this crisis is because bankers and money people took advantage of the system. They set the standard, and the American people are just saying, okay, why play by the rules when the game is already fixed? The American people, basically in the core of themselves, are moral in their relationship to the law. They play by the rules. That's what you do. You know, you go to work, you earn your money, you pay your debts, you try to raise your children the best you can, and you play by the rules. And all of a sudden, a whole class of people who think they know better and who try to own the government that belongs to us isn't playing by the rules. And now they're going to complain when people walk away from mortgages that they can pay or refuse to leave houses in foreclosure? Get real. Wake up. The times are a-changin', and in a far different way than when Bob Dylan first saw that 50 years ago.